Good evening, class. Today's section we are going to be looking at how to write and graph equations in circles. We've pretty much done all the miscellaneous things with circles. There are a few things we'll learn later on in chapters 11 and 12. But we found out how to find a lot of the angles inside of a circle. And we've done a little bit with lengths now in both sections 1 and section 6. But now what we're going to do is we're going to look at how to actually use the grid, such as this one here, and how we're going to graph and write the equations for that grid. So, the first thing we need to do is know the equation of the circle. If I don't know that, I'm pretty much not going to be able to do this. So this is the equation. It is x minus h, quantity squared, plus y minus k, quantity squared, equals r squared. And h, comma k, is the center of my circle, and r is the radius. It looks strangely like Pythagorean's theorem, and that's because there is something to do with Pythagorean's theorem here. We actually use a triangle somewhat to draw a circle. Kind of strange. But that's the standard equation. X minus h, y minus k, and r all underneath the square. H comma k is the center, and r is the radius. You need to memorize this. Alright. So let's just do an example of writing a few. What if I gave you 3 problems and I said, hey, write the standard equation of the circle. The center of this one is blank and the radius is blank. Well, it's just as simple as using that equation and solving. So let me copy down example 1. Alright, these 3 equations are what I'm trying to write here. Now look, this is my standard form of my equation. So I'm going to fill in everything but h, k, and r. So x minus blank quantity squared plus y minus blank quantity squared equals blank squared. Now, center is h comma k. So h in this case is -5. So I put negative and 5 in for h. K is the y coordinate, and that's what I'm going to put in for over there. So 2 goes in for k. And the radius is r. And that's what I put in for r, is 3. Now, for this, there's a few things you have to change. First of all, if you have a double negative, so like minus and negative, I want you to change that to x plus 5 quantity squared. This here, y minus 2 quantity squared, go ahead, leave it that way. And the last thing I want you to change is if you have 3 squared, I expect you to write 9. The equation is good enough like that. Yeah, because this way, you can draw it easy. I want your equation in this form. It's easier for us. It's also simplest for us. Alright, so let's try to write the next equation. Well, again, that's going to be x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared. H is the first one in the coordinate, so 2. I put that with the x. K is the second one in the coordinate, so -4. That goes with the y. R is the radius, so 4 goes in for r. And at this point, again, simplify. Well, x minus 2 is kind of nice the way it is. I'm not going to mess around with that. However, y plus 4 is better answer there. And 4 squared is 16. Alright, go ahead and try the last one on your own. Alright, so h is the first letter is 0, so I put 0 in for h. 0 is there. K is the second letter. That's k, so 0 in for k. And let's put 1 in for r. So I look, wait, x minus 0, that's just x squared. Y minus 0, that's just y squared. And 1 squared is just 1. So this equation is an equation of a circle. If you see x squared or y squared by itself, that's telling you the center is 0 comma something. Maybe even 0 comma 0, or something comma 0. So, if you ever see x squared by itself, it's telling you the x coordinate for the center is 0. If you see y squared by itself, it's telling you the y coordinate for the center is 0. In this case, it's an origin type problem. Alright, and that's just how to write the equation. The next 2 concepts are about how to draw the graph from an equation and how to get the equation from a graph. So let's take a look. The concepts for graphing an equation is, first of all, this. Figure out the center. So you're going to write off to the side somewhere, what's the center? You're also going to write down what the radius is. And then you're going to plot the center of the circle. You're going to use the radius, measure left to right, up, down, and you're going to connect an arc to each of those points you just measured. And you will get your circle. So, let's see exactly what I mean by these 4 steps. So, let's write down, first of all, these 3 equations. So those are my 4 equations. The first step is identify the center and radius region. So the center for this one, h, well, it's x minus h. So even though it's minus 1, I use positive 1. K, it's minus k. So this is plus 1. Well, that's the same as minus negative 1. So I'm going to use the opposite sign for both. So if it's x minus 1, 1 is the center for the x coordinate. If it's y plus 1, negative 1 is the center for the y coordinate. And the radius here is the square root of 1. Well, the square root of 1 is 1. So the radius, and that's my point I'm going to use. Let's graph it. Now, in this coordinate grid, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, negative 1, negative 1, so on and so forth. This is my x and this is my y coordinate. So, the first thing I do, now that I've identified the center and I've identified the radius, is I plot the center. The center is 1, comma, negative 1. So this is my center, right there. And I'm going to label it 1, comma, negative 1. Now my radius is 1. So the next step is to go left 1, right 1, up 1, and down 1. And at this point, the last step is connect those dots I just made with an arc. So you're going to do something like this. You're going to make 4 arcs, trying to make it as close to a circle as possible. And there you go. You have graphed it. Of course, I expect you to write your equation over here. X minus 1 quantity squared plus y plus 1 quantity squared equals 1 on your graph. And there we go. You've graphed the circle. So step 1, identify the center, identify the radius. Step 2, plot the center. Step 3, go left, right, up, and down the number your radius tells you. Last step, connect those 4 dots with arcs. It should look roughly like a circle. Alright, the next problem. Over here. Well, the center is going to be something comma something, and r is going to be the square root of something. Alright, so here, x minus h. Well, there's no minus h, so this has to be 0. Y minus 1. Well, y minus k, so that means k is 1. R squared is 9, so the square root of 9 is r. R is 3. So in this case, when I do this, I'm going to plot 0, comma 1. Before I'm going to plot this one, though, I'm going to erase the old one. So that way it's not in our way. And that way I don't get confused. The next one I'm going to plot is the second one there. And I'm going to plot it in blue. Now that I found the center and I found the radius, it's time to plot the center. 0, comma 1. The radius is 3, so I go to the right 3. I go up 3. I go to the left 3. And I go down 3. And now I try to connect those 4 dots with as smooth of an arc as possible. And yeah, it's not perfect, but it's close. So 0, comma 1. And again, write your equation. X squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 9. And there I'm done. I've labeled my center. I've labeled the equation. The only thing that I might even add here is putting an r in here and letting us know it's 3. So that way, even if it's drawn roughly, like this here, you know that I meant it to be a radius of 3. And there we go. Problem 2 is done. And for the last problem, we're again going to try this. You first find the center. So in this case, h comma k minus h. So not positive 3, negative 3. Not positive 2, negative 2. And r is going to be the square root of 4, which is 2. So again, I'm going to plot this into my graph. I'm going to erase the old one here. And I realize I'm going to be more in the negative coordinate this time, so I'm going to put more of mine over here. In fact, I don't know if I even get positive anywhere. I don't think I do. So my center is negative 3, comma negative 2, so I put a point there. My radius is 2, so I go to the right 2, I go to the left 2, I go up 2, I go down 2. And now I connect these arcs with as smooth of an arc as possible. I label my center negative 3, comma negative 2. I label my circle x plus 3 quantity squared plus y plus 2 quantity squared equals 4. And I mark my radius as 2. And there I go. I've drawn my circle. This is how you graph an equation of a circle. First, find the center, find the radius. Plot the center, pick 4 points that are the radius away, up, down, left, right. Make an arc to make it look like a circle, and plug in all the random information that we need, like the radius, the center, and the equation of the circle. Alright, at this point, we're no longer going to look at how to graph these, because I think we have a pretty good grip on how to graph them. We're also not going to look at just how to write them. We're going to look at how to write them if I gave you a circle in a graph. So right here, I have something for us to do. It says, write the equation from a graph. So the goal here is, I'm going to give you a graph, and I want you to just write the equation from it. So, identify the center and radius visually. Then you plug the center and radius into your equation, and you simplify. I know I said square r there, but it's just simplified the way I've asked you to. So let's look at how to do this. I give you 3 circles in my grid here. And I want the equation for all 3. In fact, that's all I'm asking for. I say, write the equation for each circle. So I think I'm going to pull up the grid here. And I'm going to try and draw these circles roughly. Alright, so these circles are somewhat roughly drawn because I did a lot of them by freehand. But this is what you kind of have in your picture there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the big upper right one. Now, if I want to write the equation, I need the center and I need the radius. So to draw the center, try and find its horizontally widest point and draw a line horizontally. Then try to find its vertically widest point and draw a line vertically. Where these 2 lines intersect, that's the center. And it just so happens that this center is right here at 3, 3. And even neater is that the radius, you just come from the center now. It's 1, 2, 3 wide. So the radius is 3. So the equation of the circle, I now plug into this. So x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared. Well, h is 3, k is 3, and r is 3. I wasn't actually trying to do that. That was actually more of a mistake on my part. Don't worry, these ones won't be as coincidental as that. So this is x minus 3 quantity squared plus y minus 3 quantity squared equals 9. And you're done. That's it. So again, when you do this, look at the circle. We have to identify the center. So draw a line vertically from its vertically widest part. Draw a line horizontally at its horizontally widest part. Where they intersect is the center. Here it's 4, negative 3. The radius is how far the center is away from one of its edges. 1, 2. So this is 2 for the radius. Now it's just plug into the equation. I have my center and my radius. So x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. H is the x coordinate, 4. K is the y coordinate, negative 3. And r is 2. X minus 4 just gets recopied. Y minus negative 3 is y plus 3 quantity squared. And 2 squared is 4. Go ahead and try the last one on your own. If you got this, by drawing a line vertically, drawing a line horizontally, this is my center. It's at -2, 0. The radius is only 1 away. So when I do this equation, it's x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared. Well, h is -2, k is 0, and r is 1. So x plus 2 quantity squared plus, well, y minus 0 is y, so y squared equals 1 squared, which is 1. And there we go. So, write the equation for each circle. We've done all that this chapter entails. We've used the standard equation of a circle. We've written the equation. We've pulled from the graph the equation. We've also used the equation to graph it. And that's all this section really entails. At this point, it's time to start studying for the Chapter 10 test. It is by far one of the most brutal in history of geometry that I've seen. Chapter 3 and Chapter 10 have always been historically the worst. Study it real well. You should be able to pass it. There's a lot of memorizing which step to do when. But that's all I have for you today. Until next time.